Farm Week is a production of the Mississippi State University Extension Service.
Today on Farm Week, the first renewable crude oil made from wood fiber is shipped from Columbus, Mississippi.
It's National Ag Week and National Ag Day. We'll tell you how many people each farmer in America feeds and clothes.
In southern gardening, the Senetti Pericallis. It's iridescent and it likes cool weather.
In the markets, farm-raised catfish prices remain well below year-ago levels, as old crop cotton prices tumble in the face of slower export sales.
In the feature segment, spray drift. See how scientists at the University of Nebraska have built a wind tunnel to see what really goes on when the droplets leave the nozzles.
The sprayer sends water.
We've done a lot of work in the field looking at different droplet sizes on the efficacy side. And if we get those droplets too large, a lot of times the pesticides don't work. So there's a sweet spot in there where we're trying to hit so that we don't have a lot of drift, but yet we're still getting the control from that pesticide that we want.
Good day, everyone. I'm Leighton Spann.
And I'm Artis Ford. Welcome to Farm Week.
A very historic 1,800th episode. That is a lot of shows.
That's a lot of shows. Of course, this is our 36th season. We celebrated our 35th anniversary of being on the air last October. So, I mean, who would have thought it? I mean, a lot of time, but we wouldn't be here if you didn't watch. You, our viewers, they would have tossed us away years ago.
And you've been here from day one almost.
No. Believe it or not, I have not been here all the time, but about 28 years worth of that 35.
And only about 16 for me, so.
What, yeah. Still, hey.
It's a lot.
Couldn't do the show without you. But, you know, while we're celebrating this, we're also talking about National Ag Day. That happened this week as well. And Tuesday, March 19th, marked the 40th anniversary of Ag Day. We'd like to celebrate, or think we like to celebrate Ag Day every day here on Farm Week. As you said, we've done for 35 years. Agriculture is Mississippi's biggest economic engine. Last year, Mississippi agriculture produced a record production value of $7.3 billion, according to the Mississippi State University Extension Service. As of 2011, the U.S. Department of Agriculture said there were 42,400 farms in Mississippi. The USDA defines a farm as an operation with at least $1,000 worth of annual agricultural sales. The last census of agriculture said that more than 2,600 Mississippi farms had annual sales of more than $500,000, so that would definitely qualify them as big businesses. How does Mississippi agriculture rank compared to other states? Well, as of the last ag census, Mississippi catfish farmers ranked first in aquaculture sales. Mississippi's third in the nation in sweet potato production, fifth in broiler and egg production, fifth as well in cotton and cottonseed production, and eighth in what's called the cut Christmas tree production and short rotation wood crops. I need to look that up. In terms of total value of all agricultural products sold, Mississippi ranked 24th in the nation as of the last ag census. Each U.S. farmer is now credited with raising enough food and fiber for 155 other people. And you know what that does? That frees us up to do what we want. So we do pay tribute to those of you involved in agriculture. And of course, a lot of people are getting involved in the local food movement now, which I think is good because they see what it takes to produce food, and that's good.
More people have a knowledge of agriculture. Some very revealing numbers there when you think about it.
Well, we've got some new next generation technology.
We do, and let's share that story with you now. Mississippi's reputation for next generation bioenergy took yet another step forward this week. The KiOR company of Pasadena, Texas announced Monday that it has made its very first shipments of renewable fuel made from wood chips, and the fuel was made at its Columbus, Mississippi plant. KiOR called the fuel cellulosic diesel. It was made at the firm's first commercial scale facility located at a former paper mill site at Columbus. KiOR's proprietary process turns biomass such as pine wood chips into what it calls renewable crude oil. This can in turn be processed into gasoline, diesel, and fuel oil blend stocks. Once processed into fuel, it can be burned in existing motor vehicles. It can also be mixed easily with petroleum-derived fuels. KiOR said it hopes to ship from 3 to 5 million gallons by the end of the year. It eventually says it hopes to produce 13 million gallons a year at that Columbus site. KiOR says the $213 million plant could process up to 500 tons of totally dry wood fiber a day. It will employ 100 full-time and contract workers. Another plant is currently under construction at Natchez, Mississippi. It will be 3 times the size of the Columbus plant and could process up to 1,500 tons of totally dry wood fiber a day. Now, startup costs are weighing on the company. Last year, KiOR posted a loss of $96.4 million. KiOR's fourth quarter numbers reflected a loss, but the numbers were better than the market expected.
Well, what flowering plant for spring can be used like fall mums? In this week's Southern Gardening segment, Extension horticulturist Dr. Gary Bachman shows us how the iridescent flowers of the Senetti Pericallis can add beauty to our cool spring landscapes.
There's nothing like visiting a greenhouse in the spring for landscape inspiration. Here at JDS Nursery, Sandra Schals and her crew are getting ready for the coming gardening season. One of the flowering plants that has left me in awe the past couple of years has been the Senetti Pericallis. The flower colors can be almost iridescent. Colors include magenta, blue bicolor, and light blue bicolor. The bicolors are really pretty with their center white halos. One of the best attributes of Senetti Pericallis is their love of the cooler temperatures of early spring. They will grow and flower when the thermometer is consistently in the 35 to 40 degree range. But you'll have to protect or bring inside as these plants are not frost tolerant. Senetti Pericallis can be used in the same way mums are used in the fall. They look great as a single container plant or even better as a combination container. Whichever way you display these colorful plants, take advantage of their reblooming capabilities. When the flowers are starting to fade, prune the plant back by 50%. In 3 to 4 weeks, new flowers will start to appear for a second show. Maintaining proper moisture level is important to good health for these plants. Wait until the potting media feels dry before watering. Once the heat of summer arrives, the flowering will stop. But you can maintain these plants over the summer and be rewarded with a burst of fall flowering. I'm Gary Bachman for Southern Gardening.
Now, Leighton, Gary says that when your flowers start to fade, you prune the plant back by 50%, you replant in a larger container, water and fertilize with a water-soluble fertilizer. In 3 to 4 weeks, he says, the Senetti Pericallis will start to put on new flowers for a second show, and that will continue until the temperatures gets consistently above 85 degrees.
It's a lot of detail. I'll try and remember all.
Hey, look on the website. In the feature segment today, spray drift. The off-site drift of sprays can make neighbors into enemies in less than a New York minute. Nebraska scientists have constructed a wind tunnel to see what's actually happening to spray droplets. Time now for the markets with Leighton, and we've got a new snapshot of the catfish industry. But the picture doesn't seem to have changed much, you say?
Not much at all, Artis. That story coming up first in the markets. Also ahead in this segment, analysts say hogs need to see an increase in domestic demand. U.S. cotton exports slipped some this week, while a new report suggests Brazil may soon dominate world soybean trade. The monthly summary of the U.S. farm-raised catfish industry was rolled out by the USDA on Wednesday afternoon, March 20th. The figures reflect what was happening in the month of February. Last month, producers received a pond bank price of 82 cents per pound. That is 40 cents per pound under what was paid 1 year ago. Farm sales totaled 30 million pounds round weight. That is an increase of 11% from February 2012. Processor sales were 15.5 million pounds. That's an increase of 8% from 1 year ago. In the hog sector, producers are waiting for that market to put in a bottom. If history is any indicator, this is about the time of year for it to happen, at least according to analyst Don Roos. He says an increase in domestic demand for pork products might just make it a reality.
Well, pork's had a real issue. You know, they were very similar to the cattle. You know, back last fall we were at $93 on April hogs. We moved all the way down to $81, $12 break. The hog market is deeply oversold now, and it's due for a seasonal low, very much like the cattle. Now, seasonally, hogs put in usually seasonally start to move higher the middle of March, and we expect that's what's going to happen. So, you know, they're primed to move higher if we get the proper catalyst. That's probably an increase in domestic demand.
Fuel inputs are definitely a cost of planting season. Now, the price of gasoline has tapered off some in many parts of the country after an earlier than usual bump up that started in February. But analyst Sue Martin says don't get used to it. She says she believes the needle will head higher once again as the growing season gets in full swing.
I think gasoline prices are going to still come back and try to be stronger. They've had a good correction off of that high that they got to, and crude oil, you know, reached the levels of up around 98, fell quite hard, and is now hovering a little over 93. So I still think that we're just kind of weaving away here, just narrowing in, killing time. But as we get closer in towards the driving season, I think you're going to see the gasoline prices hold quite strong.
Our trivia quiz this week deals with the aquaculture industry, and here's the question. What is the single largest ingredient used in the feed given to farm-raised catfish? The answer could be corn, or B, soybean meal, or C, rice, or D, wheat. You'll find out in a few more minutes.
We're going to pause for a short break on Farm Week. Coming up, we'll look at the calendar. And in the second part of the markets, Leighton Span reports that cotton exports are slowing. We'll also have an update on the corn and soybean markets. In the feature segment today, spray drift for all the modern electronics on tractors today. Spray application is still practiced as an art more than a science. Nebraska scientists have constructed a wind tunnel to see what's happening.
Our tradition of learn by doing is creating new opportunities. My 4-H is involved with service projects in communities all across our state.
We develop leaders for Mississippi's future.
My 4-H is science and technology, everything from computers and robotics to exploring our environment.
My 4-H promotes active lifestyles and encourages physical fitness, healthy foods, and nutrition.
My 4-H is Mississippi 4-H.
Before we get back to the markets, let's look at the Farm Week calendar. Are my pine trees ready to thin? Again, is a forestry short course designed for private timberland owners. See how to determine if it is time to thin your pines. It takes place Thursday, April 4th at the Calhoun County Extension Service office at the Agri Center in Pittsboro. The hours are 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. You'll get actual field experience to go with your classroom work. Please pre-register by Friday, March 29th so they'll know how many are coming. Lunch is included in the $20 registration fee. The Union County Master Gardeners are hosting the New Albany Home and Garden Show Friday and Saturday, April 5th and 6th. The hours are 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. each day. It takes place at the Union County Fairgrounds at New Albany. Admission is free. Anything from landscapes to using high tunnels for commercial vegetable production will be covered. Raising backyard and pasture-raised chickens will be handled as well. Go to our Farm Week website at farmweek.msucares.com for information on these and other events. Now check out this week's Farm Week Snapshot.
Estimates of slower U.S. export sales of cotton sent old crop cotton futures into a tumble late Tuesday. And then Wednesday's news that China and India may be releasing some of their cotton stocks really took the bloom off the market. Arkansas Farm Bureau analysts say it appears that recent resistance at 89 cents is solid. Global traders think China will likely unload 3 million tons of reserve cotton into the market between April and September. Doan's commentary reports that amount is 30% of China's stockpiles and nearly 4 times the amount China agreed that their mills could import at low tariff just last week. Well, grains and oilseeds were showing some strength at midweek. This included beans, where a double-digit rally appeared in a sector that had seen a lot of action in the minus column since the midpoint of this month. Extension Ag economist Brian Williams answered some questions about corn as well as soybeans this week. Brian, what's your take on new crop corn right now?
Well, right now our September corn futures are trading for about $5.90 compared to May is trading around $7.30. I see a couple things contributing to that difference. First of all, we have a record 99 million acres that are expected to be planted for corn this year. Second of all, the South American crop looks good right now. And third is the big question of are we really going to see as widespread of a drought across the country this year as we did last year? Now
the acreage report that we'll have at the end of this month, that will certainly likely move this market maybe one way or another as
right.
the planting prospects turn into perhaps real intentions.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the big driver this spring. We're kind of watching the weather. Midwest has got cool conditions, and in the South it's fairly wet, so that could delay some planting. And if it delays it enough, we might see some corn switch to soybeans. So I think right now that's the big driver for U.S. crops.
And we have heard that an ethanol plant or two coming back online right now.
Yeah, and I don't think it's the corn prices that are particularly driving that, because they've kind of come up the last couple of weeks, but we've also, if you filled up lately, the gas prices have gone up as well. So.
All right, we've got about a minute left here. Let's turn to soybeans real quick now. We've kind of seen a break or some call it a spiral downward in soybeans. What's happened in that market?
The big thing in that market is South America, particularly Brazil. They're rapidly progressing in their harvest, and we're also seeing that there's a USDA report that came out not long ago that says that it's potential that Brazil could surpass the U.S. in total soybean production. So they're definitely a big player in that.
Before this week's feature story is the trivia answer, and this week it is B. Soybean meal is the largest component of the feed used for farm-raised catfish, with some corn and rice ingredients as well.
In today's feature story segment, spray drift. If you're not a farmer or you don't live next to a farm field, you might not be familiar with it. Spray drift occurs when a pesticide floats away from its intended target area. When this occurs, a herbicide can start killing crops instead of the intended weeds. Drift can occur for a variety of reasons, and it doesn't always have to be windy. Scientists in Nebraska have built a wind tunnel to see what kind of technology, chemistry, and management it takes to reduce drift. Mark DeMarcus Perry Stoner reports.
Wind can have an impact on the livelihood of farmers. It dries out crops and erodes topsoil, but it also impacts farmers when they are applying chemicals to crop fields. To better understand that impact, researchers have brought the wind inside. As an electric engine revs up, Greg Kruger, a crop systems specialist with the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, explains the setup.
At the far end, we have an axial flow fan, and that creates an air flow. Then we've got an air straightener or a honeycomb that gets that airflow going straight down the wind tunnel. And we've set up a single nozzle sprayer inside this 4-foot by 4-foot wind tunnel. And then back behind that, we've got a scrubber system, which will pull out all the particles in the air that we've generated from running that sprayer system inside that wind tunnel.
The sprayer sends water through the tunnel. Kruger and his team are trying out dozens of nozzles, searching for the most efficient and effective chemical application methods. It starts with the droplet size coming out of the nozzle.
We know that the smaller the droplet size, the greater the drift potential. Those small droplets take longer to reach the ground. So anytime we've got an airflow that's pushing those droplets, if it takes longer to get to the ground, it's going to move farther from the point where it was released. So with our applications and what we do with the applicators is try to get them to use nozzles and pressures and spray solutions that are going to give them larger droplet size so that we get more of those droplets to the intended target.
Chemicals are designed to keep crop diseases and pests in check. The research is also investigating how much pressure is ideal for application. The more forced use to apply chemicals usually means smaller droplet size.
We've done a lot of work in the field looking at different droplet sizes on the efficacy side. And if we get those droplets too large, a lot of times the pesticides don't work. So there's a sweet spot in there where we're trying to hit so that we don't have a lot of drift, but yet we're still getting the control from that pesticide that we want.
Near the fan in the wind tunnel is a honeycomb-shaped attachment which keeps the 15-mile-per-hour wind blowing as straight as possible. This introduces an element of physics to the tunnel and accuracy to the measurements. Each droplet sprayed in the tunnel is measured when it bends the light of the laser beam set up at the opposite end of the tunnel.
Anytime something crosses that laser beam, it changes the angle of that light that the lens picks up. So depending on how far that light bends, the lens knows how, or the lens sends that information to the computer, and the computer determines how big the droplet size is. Now, kind of counterintuitive, the more that light bends, the smaller the droplet is. So it's a little bit opposite of what we would generally expect. The precision is much better than even we could get with the naked eye. The diameter of a human hair is about 140 microns. We're picking up about 1/10 of a micron on that laser beam. So about 1,400 times smaller than what the diameter of a human hair is the size of the droplets that we're picking up.
I'd say wind is probably our largest challenge. Just due to the fact of sensitive stuff that's around you. Neighbors, sensitive crops, vineyards.
The research at the wind tunnel is right on target for Kevin Wemhoff. He owns Vantage Agri-Service in southeast Nebraska. Applying liquid chemicals makes up a large part of the business, especially this time of year. It's windy this time of year too, and chemical application directions don't allow for much wind.
Technically, by most labels, it's 10 mile an hour. And obviously there are many, many days in Nebraska that's over 10 mile an hour. So trying to work within those parameters becomes extremely difficult. Yeah, you play the best that you can with the challenges that you have faced in front of you between weather and crops and when guys are planting and how much you have to do.
Wemhoff's high crop sprayer looks like a large transformer toy as the boom unfolds to a span of 90 feet. Onboard sonar automatically adjusts the height of the boom to the rolling hills for optimum efficiency. There are other options to counter the wind too. Drift retarding additives can help weigh down chemicals to reduce drift, and there are numerous types of nozzles to choose from to try to keep particle size larger.
The blue one on the bottom is a drift guard nozzle, which is one of the ones that helps maintain the micron size of the product as it comes out.
While technology and information have improved efficiency, Wemhoff says it's still important to continue to get better.
With more acreages, where we're relatively close to some urban areas, there are more vineyards, there are more acreage people, there are more people that moved out of town that you need to be very sensitive to. You're always looking for more data, more information on how far particles move to give you the best idea of how to handle a field.
That's what Greg Kruger hopes will come from the research at the new wind tunnel facility in North Platte. In addition to the machine that blows at 15 miles per hour, a much larger machine can be attached. It can create winds up to 200 miles per hour to replicate aerial chemical spraying.
We've got engineering meets physics meets biology.
After some initial testing, Kruger will put plants in the wind tunnel for further research. He hopes the work will aid in drift reduction technology, something the Environmental Protection Agency is already focusing on.
We're all familiar with going and buying an appliance that has an Energy Star logo and what that means. It means that we pick up that product off the shelf and it's an energy efficient appliance. Similarly, this DRT policy will have labeling on products so that applicators, when they pick up a nozzle or they pick up a drift reducing adjuvant off the shelf to use with their application, they'll know that that product will have the ability to reduce drift.
For Market to Market, I'm Perry Stoner.
And you can watch this story again on spray drift on our Farmweek website. That's farmweek.msucares.com. You can also watch Farmweek stories on YouTube and Facebook. We'll have a link to the Market website where you can see the story as well and read the script. One thing we might mention, Leighton, that when you're looking at spray drift, like I said, you don't have to have wind to have spray drift. If you have thermals which rising up, small droplet size,
moves it over.
It can move it right over and drop it down. There's been evidence of that over in the Mississippi Delta before. Well, we are at the end of Farm Week for this week. On our next show, we have 2 feature stories for you.
Mississippi's forest industry joined together with Habitat for Humanity to build a greenhouse in Meridian. The house was built with lumber grown and harvested using the guidelines of the Sustainable Forestry Initiative.
It's turkey hunting season in Mississippi, but to have turkeys this time of year, you need to provide habitat year-round. We'll show you how to grow more wild turkeys and timber on your land.
In Southern Gardening, blue butterfly plants. They really look like butterflies.
And if you'd like further information on a Farm Week story or you want to suggest a story to us, you need to get in touch. You can also find us on Facebook and YouTube. Our mailing address, Snail Mail, Box 9625, Mississippi State, Mississippi 39762. That's Box 9625, Mississippi State, Mississippi 39762. Our telephone number, 662-325-2262. You can also contact us through your county office of the Mississippi State University Extension Service. For the rest of the Farm Week crew, I'm Artis Ford.
And I'm Leighton Spann. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.